Ladies and gentlemen, we are back! Back for another episode of the Draxx Life podcast, where we'll chat about some of the weird and the wondrous. Let's get to the show. And we are live. All right, gents. We're doing it again. I told you, I promised we would keep these up. And here we are. So, hey, how's everyone doing?
I'm doing pretty good. Quick update. Had a good weekend. I hope everyone's holidays were good because we just came out of the holidays. It was crazy that Passover, Easter, and Ramadan all were coinciding in the same week. It's wild.
Has that never happened before?
It does, but not for that length of period of time, if that makes sense.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, that's got to be like, I don't know, on some crazy cycle, like every 60 years or every couple of years, something like that.
Yeah, but it was cool. How about you fellas?
Which is interesting if you think about it, because all of those holidays kind of are like in opposition to each other, yet they're all like within the same time frame.
Yeah, it was crazy that it was all of last week, all the holidays were going on. That's the wild part, Joe, because they usually overlap for a couple days, but not that like an entire week. So it was wild.
Nice. Yeah, my weekend was good. I saw the legendary Henry Chan. He came.
Did you?
Yeah,
Nice.
he did.
Nice.
Spent like 9 hours here just like talking and pontificating, and that guy just his consumption of knowledge is just like so vast that like I don't even talk. I just listen for like 8 hours of him just like dropping bombs of like interesting ideas he's had.
He's cracking eggs of knowledge over your
pretty
head.
much, and just like drowning me in the yolk.
Yeah.
And then it was Greek. I mean, yeah, it was Greek Easter this weekend too. So you had like
another one.
As you said, it's another Easter. So I had a little bit of lamb and some good food and visited some family. So yeah, man, I had a good weekend. Can't complain. Joe, how about you?
I had no idea that. I totally forgot that was all of these like religious holidays. So I'm completely at a loss for all the stuff that's happening. But this weekend's been all right. I can't complain.
All right.
Well, we had fun on Friday night. I won't get into it. That's
oh, all right. Okay. Joe is like glossed over it.
Yeah, he's being coy. He's being coy
for a reason.
Yeah.
I don't like to.
Yeah.
Okay.
No.
All you're doing is making me want to ask you questions.
No. This story is for the changing room. It's for the locker room. This is not. It's not for air.
Yikes. So let your imagination wander. I mean, everyone's imagination is probably going to the same things.
Oh, yeah.
So not much to be left to the imagination.
Yeah, exactly. It's subtly unsubtle.
It is kind of funny, though. It's like in the grand scheme of things, it's like most stories kind of boil down to the same things. And it's like if it's a story you don't want to share with people, it's like, all right. I know what it is to a degree. It's either A, B, or C. One of these things. Let's be honest.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm glad. Who did you guys all see or frolic with?
So I had. Let's just say the Football Factory is involved, and the South Street Seaport was involved, and my other favorite bar, Flandery's, was involved. We'll just leave it at that.
Oh my goodness, you were a man around town. I love how like none of us have. Joe, have you ever gone to the Football Factory?
I have.
He's been there. He's been there.
Okay, because I just imagine like a scene where you just kind of like people, you enter this domain and all of a sudden you become a new character. And it's like if you were to bring someone there like myself who's not, has not been introduced to this location, I would just be like, I look to my left and I see you and you would have blossomed into this character. Maybe you start to like develop an accent that blurs between Irish and English and Scottish and I don't know, maybe a little Portuguese.
There's a lot of Portuguese. Brazil has a big contingent there, especially the club teams.
I didn't know that.
But it's the River and Boca from Buenos Aires too in Argentina, and the Peruvians are huge there too. But the national team. But anyway, I'm gonna start rambling. But what it would be like, Chris, is if you walk in with me, you're immediately vetted. You're in. this inner circle. Because if
I like it.
if the Football Factory was a television series, I would be one of the main characters.
Like
I would
Cheers.
yeah.
That's excellent, Joe. That's exactly what I'm thinking.
Exactly like Cheers.
And you
So-
are like a young Ted Danza. Let's be honest.
One of the best DJ names I saw was DJ Ted Danson, but not Danson as he spells it, but like Danson.
God.
DJ Ted Danson.
Fucking God.
I remember I was watching Cheers. I think I even texted you, and I was watching it, and I was like, "Dude, you are this character."
Yeah,
Like,
Yeah,
Ted
I can
Danson.
see that.
pretty much.
I could totally see that.
Yeah.
You got the same hair, the swagger, that like the Clint Eastwood stroll. It's
Hooking
man,
up with
that's-
Christy Alley, you know.
there you go.
Yeah.
There you go.
So, the last thing I'll say about that is, if you remember the scene in The Other Guys where they do the 3D animation scene where Mark Wahlberg goes to Will Ferrell and he goes, they're all both down on their luck, and Eva Mendes, I forgot her character's name, just breaks up with, like, semi breaks up with Will Ferrell, and he's drinking by himself on the East River. And Mark Wahlberg goes, listen, let's go to this bar uptown. We're going to do some real drinking. I don't care about these beers. And then they walk in and there's like the 3D animation scene. That's what it would be like walking in with me. Dude, he's like, no. Because Will Ferrell goes, I already have a beer. Like, why don't we just finish the 6-pack? And Mark Wahlberg is like, no. We're going to do some serious drinking. We're going to Jack of All Trades. It's the name of the bar. It's like, we're going to Jack of All Trades. That's what's happening. And
yeah,
then
and I feel like as the night progresses, you become like
Nick.
the Weekend at Bernie's. Like you, the glasses come on, and like you're
Yeah.
like awake, drunk, because you get there so early. It's like 7 a.m. You guys start drinking by like noon. You're
I don't know
probably
how you
walking
do it.
around like half
Yeah.
alive.
I have my first pint around 8ish, and
God.
but it's a marathon. So
Joe's just holding his stomach. He's just like, oh man, I
Yeah.
can't handle it.
but it's a
Nope.
marathon, everyone, because the Italian league and the Spanish league usually play later in the day. English teams are usually over by 1 p.m., 2 o'clock. But then the other leagues start coming in, and then you have. One time I was leaving, I'll tell the story. We got to get to the topic, but I'll tell one more
yeah,
story.
yeah, no, that's good. Let's catch up.
So,
all the time.
Yeah. I was leaving Football Factory after all the England games. So I watched the Championship, which is the second division of England, and I watched the Premier League and also League One, which is for Americans, it's hard to understand because League One is the third division of English football. But I digress. And so I watched those 3 leagues, but then I was leaving, and all the Italians, the Milanistas, they were Italian people from Milan.
Milan.
Were telling me, "Yo, Bobby A, you ain't leaving. You're going back downstairs. Go back downstairs, because Milan is paying Fiorentina,
Oh
and they
my
all know
God.
I lived in Firenze for when I was in school, so they all know this. So they were like, "No, it's Milan Fiorentina. You're not leaving. You're going back downstairs." So I went back downstairs. So
Those are the
sometimes
things. Those are like what nightmares are made of to me.
I know, but it's too
Like,
Chris's.
just as I get myself out, they
They
pull me
back in. Yeah, Al Pacino, Godfather. Yeah, exactly. So, sometimes there's days like that. To Corvo's point, you
man.
think you're leaving, but then it's like, oh, Juventus is playing,
Wow.
Milan is playing, the PSG is playing, and then you just get sucked back in.
Yeah, but that's fun.
I love it. Yeah,
That is your place of worship. One of these days,
Yeah.
you, me, and Joe will go there together, just
Oh,
so we
yeah.
can all experience it
yeah,
as
and
a unit.
exactly. And then you'll see how Bobby A operates on Saturdays.
Correct, man.
Yeah.
I see the pseudo celebrity that is Bobby A
Right.
walking around, fraternizing with all the young ladies.
Yes, from all over the world.
All right, so let's get to our conversation for today. I'm gonna throw this to you, Roberto, because you kind of like were the one that brought up this subject.
Right.
So you be the one to kind of lay it out, and then we're just gonna start spiraling off of it.
Yeah.
Sound good?
Yeah, sounds good. So as I always say, I'll set the table and then we'll eat dinner. And so we're talking about the metaverse, people, and I this topic became very interesting to me when I listened to um, Joe Rogan and Tim Dillon as a guest on Joe Rogan's podcast. Uh, I didn't listen to it at the time it aired. I listened to it a couple months later, but it got me interested in the metaverse and cryptocurrency. Now, of course, I've heard things and had conversations because the three of us all have friends who are very into cryptocurrency and the metaverse and this new digital age that we're getting in, right?
Mm-hmm.
But then I started doing my own heavy research as I started studying in it as only I can, I would say, and which is a deep
Meaning
dive.
that you went down the rabbit hole.
Yes, I was James Cameron going in my pod deep down into the ocean, and
You
I want to
began
find
to
everything.
follow the white rabbit, as our
That's-
good friend Neo has done.
That's right. That's right. So I went chasing after the white rabbit, and I was like, this is peculiar, but I don't fully grasp it because I'm not as technically like in our last episode we talked about how much I hate the internet and social media, but this particularly interested me because it seems as if this a whole new world is being created, almost another universe entirely. Hence the name the metaverse, and the name metaverse actually comes from a science fiction novel called Snow Crash. Corvo, have you ever read Snow Crash?
I'm reading it now. Yes.
Yeah, so that's essentially the origin of the terminology, and it's the best way I could describe it is it's a digital world where everything in the real world exists in the metaverse. So you can buy property, you can buy a house, you can go to a comedy show, you can listen to a concert, you can go watch a sporting event, but it's all digital. And you pay for all these things with cryptocurrency. So they go hand in hand. Now, my question to kick it off is, are we just headed straight for a world where sort of like a Ready Player One, as a wise man once described to me as probably the best example in film of the metaverse, where human beings all live in these cells in like these giant towers, and all were fed an IV of hydration and sustenance. So obviously you can still live as a human, but your entire world every day is you put a helmet on and you live in a world. But the real actual world is it's a lot like Terminator 2 and The Matrix. Like the real world is terrible and disgusting, and everyone is poor and fighting each other and there's war everywhere. But when you enter the digital world, you become an avatar and you live the life that you truly desire. So what do you think we're headed down that road considering how big cryptocurrency is getting?
Okay, so let's like let's
That-
start to like destruction,
Yeah.
like break this down a little bit. And Joe, Joe? What is your when you hear the term metaverse, like what like? So let's kind of get an idea of where we're all at. Like that's from you, Rob. That all made sense, and I believe I saw some of that particular episode with Tim Dillon.
Yeah.
What about you, Joe? What is your general understanding of like the metaverse? And then we can kind of like talk about cryptocurrency, because like if there's anyone listening to this who's like a crypto person, they're not like, not everyone, like just because you're into crypto doesn't mean you like are someone who cares about the metaverse or think it's something that's going to really come to fruition. So we might have to like even break them up into two different categories. But Joe, where are you at with the subject of the metaverse?
I honestly thought the metaverse was like a conglomerate of Facebook. I thought it was because Facebook recently changed their name to Meta, and then I just thought it was all of their like kind of properties that they have accumulated over time or acquired over time, and then so this is kind of more of a revelation to me in terms of how cryptocurrency actually feeds in or is a part of this online community that Rob is talking about. I had no clue.
Okay, cool. That's good. So that's like
I like
I
that. I
kind of
like
like
that.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you're really like yeah. So
A
it's kind of funny
layman.
that you were on board to listen to this, but you were thinking like we were going to talk about pretty much Facebook the whole
Hmm.
time. Okay, Rob, okay. You seem to you know more than that. All right.
Yeah.
So
Oh,
like for
definitely.
everyone listening, like with the
I'm not.
metaverse,
I'm not a luddite like Joe Martin.
no, but it's
No
kind of
offense.
interesting because like the concepts of like cryptocurrency and the metaverse in particular, like I would say broad strokes, the majority of people don't know anything about these two subjects. Like
Right. Right.
cryptocurrency is still like you could pull people and they'd say, "Oh, it's a scam" or "It's this or that." Like I would say, majority of people don't know much about those two subjects. So this is good. Like we have kind of a nice swash of knowledge base when it comes to this. So yeah, so my understanding of the metaverse is pretty much what you're saying, Robert, is that yeah, it is a you can go as deep and as like philosophical as you want. There's a lot of good science fiction books who already were even in the 80s were contemplating this concept. So you mentioned one, the Snow Crash. Another one, which actually I believe predates that, is William Gibson's Neuromancer. Highly recommend it. Highly recommend it. I think it might be one of my favorite
Nice.
books.
Nice.
Hmm.
But in that world, like in Snow Crash, like there is a digital universe, right? It is a world that you can tap in. It is a domain of which you can see and interact and is purely digital. The Matrix, for anyone listening, the Matrix is a metaverse. That in essence, that is what the like when people say the metaverse, one easy way to understand it, it's the Matrix, right? In the Matrix is the digital world. It's a world of code where your consciousness through a machine in this case, right, actually like plugged into the brain, you're able to project a digital version of yourself. In the Matrix, it's you see yourself the way you envision yourself, right? It's
Mm-hmm.
like you self
Mm-hmm.
manifest. In like Snow Crash, you are, like you said, an avatar where you could represent yourself as like a giant penis that walks around. Like,
Exactly.
you know what I mean? And in that book, that's something that they comment on. So it's like it's more playful, let's say, whereas the Matrix is more literal, right? It's it's simulation, right? You could not potentially tell reality from fake from make believe, let's say. For that's a poor word, but yeah, like you wouldn't be able to know, right? That's the whole point of the Matrix, right? Like you have to be awakened to the reality that you're living in a simulation. But in essence, that is the metaverse. It is a digital realm, a digital universe of which has its own rules, and you can engage with it however you want. Now, to go real quick to what Joe with Facebook is that Facebook rebranded itself and is not I want to say pioneering, but is trying to be one of the companies helping manifest the metaverse. Now, the metaverse is we say the metaverse, but in reality, it's not the metaverse because any company, there can be multiple
Hmm.
metaverses, right?
Yes.
Because
Yes.
you're entering it through a portal that's been created for you, right? Like if Facebook created a metaverse, you would have to enter it through, their interface. Let's call it that. And the metaverses can be, let's say, if Facebook had a metaverse and Twitter had a metaverse and Google had a metaverse, they might not be they might be isolated from each other. So that's something to consider, right? Whereas with most sci-fi books, the metaverse is almost like the internet in that it's
Like
like
Internet
a,
3.0.
yeah, it's like a social utility of which anyone can gain access to. It's like one realm, right? That anyone can tap into. Whereas what we're talking about now, it's different brands, let's call it, of the metaverse, right? Facebook might have a metaverse, Twitter might have a metaverse, and then any number of other companies, let's say. So does that make sense for you, Joe, or for anyone who's listening? That's just like I think a general breakdown of what people mean when they say like the metaverse in this context.
Yeah, it makes total sense.
Okay. So go back,
Wait,
Bobby.
can I add one more thing
Yeah,
that
sure.
can help, Joe? You might this is a good analogy. I think at least the way I understood it and what helped me to fully grasp it was, let's say you live in New York City, and the three of us have all lived in New York City for a significant part of our lives.
Yeah.
Think about it as there's several metaverses. Think about if Brooklyn was a metaverse, if Queens was a metaverse, and then a specific neighborhood in Queens it was a metaverse, or the Bronx or Manhattan or Staten Island. Some people can afford to live in the Upper East Side, but they can't afford to live, or is the other way around, excuse me. Some people can afford to live in the Bronx, but they can't afford to live in the Upper East Side or the Upper West Side. So there's certain limitations on the metaverse where you need a certain amount of cryptocurrency, you need a certain amount of stature and or prestige or wealth to live in different metaverses. So think of it as neighborhoods and boroughs in one larger collection. So, right, when Corvo's right, it's not the metaverse like it's the universe. It's one place. This is more of a digital city with boroughs and different neighborhoods, and certain people can afford to do certain things. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean that's a good way to look at it. And also it's like you could think that maybe in a future evolution of the metaverse, it becomes kind of like one entity where let's say you might have your neighborhoods, but like in the real world, there's a road that leads to it. Whereas now it's kind of like potentially if Facebook had a metaverse, it's like a gated community and there might be no road to it from any other community, if that makes sense. Like you might
Yeah,
need to
yeah.
leave one community to enter their community. So that's like this, I guess, the current evolution of when they say the metaverse. But if you look at like sci-fi, which is probably better because all these people creating this stuff, the idea came from sci-fi. It's not like let me think about a digital world. Like people have already been talking about this since the 80s. I think the future, right, that would be that there's this digital realm of which you might build on or connect into, but it's one realm, like one universe that anyone can enter. And like Rob was saying, depending on your socioeconomic level, certain doors might appear open to you, whereas and others might not. Anyway, so let's go. Okay, so
Right.
that's like the
Yes.
foundation. Like the table is set. Like I think
Correct.
anyone who's listening, like Matrix, Ready
Ready Player
Player
One. Yeah.
One, that kind of gives you like when people say the metaverse, they're talking about a realm, a digital realm that you engage in, maybe through VR. Let's say VR, Oculus glasses that you can see and interact and be and move around in, but it's not real. It's a coded. Someone made it, and and you can engage in it in a variety of ways.
That's right.
So, okay, Bobby, so go now ask your question. You were asking like where do we see this going in this direction, or are we about to just be living in a digital world? What
Correct.
was the question you were going to ask?
My question was more of a philosophical end to where you is do you three things. Do you see us going there, and is it right to go there, or do we know we're going there, and should we stop it? So three questions.
Wow.
Uh, Is it going there? Will we ever get there? Is it right to get there? And or the more nefarious question, do we know it's headed this way, and should people be trying to stop this?
Okay,
That's
that's good.
yeah.
So okay, so we have those three questions. Say them one more time.
Well,
It's
let's go with
Will we
one
ever
question
get
at a
there?
time,
All right, all right. Sorry,
just to
let's do
make
it.
it
Is it
digestible.
ever? Will we ever get there? Are we headed this way? Number one. Go ahead.
Are we headed
So
to okay? And when you say are we headed that way, you mean in like a fully digital existence?
yes, as in everyone in the world sits in a tube in their house and they live in a digital world. Yeah.
Perfect. Okay. So that's like okay, perfect. All right. What about why don't you kick this one off, Joe? What do you think?
I think without a doubt that's happening. I feel like that's happening now. It's just not as involved and it's not as widespread, but there are people that live in a digital world almost 18 hours a day or 20 hours a day. And the more that you have transactions set up online, the more likely you can just envelop yourself with the online world. So yeah, I can easily see that I can see developed countries moving towards a digital society.
Okay. So why don't Rob?
Uh,
Do you want to go? You want to?
yeah,
Because
yeah,
you
yeah.
already asked this question.
I think we would, all three of us would agree on this. I think we are on the path to this happening. If we want to be truthful to ourselves as humans, I believe, because if you look at everything in the world, look at just the way you consume entertainment, the way you shop, video games, everything is, you need a tablet, a phone, or a computer. Everything. There's nothing analog about the life anymore.
Yeah.
And so we're already, if this was a path that we're walking, like if this was a beach that we're having a stroll on, the end of this beach is the metaverse. And what I mean by that is you live your life exclusively there. It's not now you just dip into it from time to time, right? No, I'm talking about full living your life there. Like full matrix, basically.
Yeah. Okay. So let me see if I might disagree with you guys to a little bit to a
Really?
degree. Um,
I would have thought that you would have completely agreed.
no, because I've thought about this. My brother had brought up. He would kind of talk about the metaverse a little bit. I go back and forth with this. That's why I'm glad that Rob brought it up, because I'm like, this is an interesting, like, it's a deep concept. Like, you can really think about, like, the metaverse is like, the way people are talking about it is very shallow, but it's like, there's some good sci-fi books that get kind of into the philosophical aspects of it. So it is kind of a meaty subject. So, I mean, I think it's without doubt that we're a digital society. I mean, we're communicating digitally. Most of our jobs involve looking at a screen, doing work that's like, cerebral on a computer. So, I mean, I think it goes without question. Like, we're definitely heading in that direction. And like you said, Joe, there's lots of people. I mean, there's a lot of kids that like they play video games all day long. Like they are fully immersed. Um,
There's like microtransactions in video games.
Oh
I
yeah, I
feel like
mean the video
it's
games.
there.
We
Yeah.
we could do a whole talk on that because that's like blowing up, especially with crypto. There's now this pay to play,
Oh yeah.
like play to get paid. Um,
And you
so I
have
think it's like without a
RPGs as
question.
well.
It's say again.
RPGs as well.
Yeah, so I think it's like without a question we're gonna go into that. I guess the argument is less like
It's a different term now, Joe. That's what made me chuckle. Oh, it's called open world gaming. All
Oh,
right,
come
it's not
on.
RPG.
he's learning from Drew, man. He lives
Yeah.
with he lives with a
Oh,
gamer.
That's
all
right.
All right.
He's picking up the
RPG
lingo.
RPGs, there's limitations. We're talking open world.
Well, I'm the old man of the group, so I'm
Oh,
No,
dude,
but that's
you
good.
and-
That we like.
you
That's
and
we
me
need
both,
that
bro.
perspective. We need that
Uh,
perspective. Yeah.
So like, yeah, so okay, so with this, I think the question is like, would we end up? Is the inevitable end that pretty much, like you said, Rob, you live in like a tube almost that preserves your body while your essence, your mind, is in this digital universe? I don't believe, this is my opinion. Like, I think there's certain good sci-fi books that kind of already are painting the picture of the world that we're headed towards. And I think they make like logical sense. So like Neuromancer is a good example. Like Neuromancer is kind of like, let's say, further in the future than we are now, where there is this metaverse. There's like a digital world that you can engage in and you can go into. There is like the ability to augment oneself, right, in a variety of different ways. Like that's
Yeah.
happening.
Yeah.
But in that world, it's not like everyone is like, no, some people like to engage in the sensory world. The majority of people do. Now they may their world's not our world, right? It's augmented. They're have some maybe like a lens on their eye and they can see the access information, like what I mean. It's not the world we live in now, but they're not choosing to live all day every day in this digital realm. Really, in that like the digital realm is kind of like the domain of, they call them keyboard cowboys, like hackers in essence, like are moving through this digital world, gathering information, knowledge, intel, data, because it's a world of data. So I would say you're going to see like broad strokes of variety. Like some people are just not. This is my belief. I think like humanity, there's always going to be a faction that are going to rebel against that, and then there's always going to be a faction that get right on board. Like imagine if you're like a beautiful woman or a handsome man or built really well. Like I think you're going to be predisposed to want to live in the real world, because nature has blessed you in a way that makes the real world very enjoyable. I mean, you know what I'm saying? Like if you're a handsome man packing a 12-inch ding dong, like you're going to want to live in the real world and play with your pipe. Like, you know what I mean? Like not to be crude, but like, why would you want an avatar? You are blessed with a certain physique. If you're a beautiful woman, like a Victoria's Secret model, why would you want to live in a digital realm where you don't get to take advantage of the fact that you just were blessed with this certain physical form? So I think that you're going to see in the future, you're going to see people who delve into that for certain things, but they don't live in it. Especially if we get into the part where you can augment your body, then I think you're going to get a lot more people who want to live in the real world. If everyone could look like, Arnold Schwarzenegger in his prime, and that was an easy accomplishment, like you're going to want, a lot of people are going to want that, and they're going to want to benefit and enjoy that physical meat. But then right? But then you're going to get people who like totally want to be pure data, like the lawnmower man, and want to like engage in this digital realm all the time. Like they have no desire to like engage with their meat. They want like pure knowledge, pure data, speed, fastest thought. So I think you're going to get you'll get people who in both camps. That's my view. I don't think like the destiny of the world is like everyone's going to want that. Like, I don't believe that particularly. Like that's just my observation, and from books I've read, and like I think they paint like a pretty clear picture. Now, to go back to your question though, it's like, are we headed in that direction where more and more of our life is digital? Absolutely. We're already there. And if like a very sensory metaverse world exists, I think you're going to see there would be a huge chunk of people who like an opium addiction, who just decide that they want to live in a realm that's potentially better than their physical realm, and like, put whatever money they can to be able to access and stay in it longer and longer and longer. I think you get those people. So that's my thought. Like I'm not of the camp of like all human beings are going to just live in this digital realm. Like I don't believe that. People are too diverse in their desires. All right, that's the end of my rant.
No, that was good. I see what you're saying.
Yeah, I agree.
There's always going to be exceptions to every rule, but how I would come back, my retort to that would be, what if it's similar to, let's say, the seniors that live in this world now that have been forced to get iPhones, get iPads, learn how to use FaceTime and video chat. What if we get to a place where, like you said, some people are not going to want it. They want to live in the real, physical, tangible world. But what if we get to a point where you can no longer exist in that world and you have to do the metaverse? What would you think about that?
Joe, you want to go? You want to take that one?
I don't know. I don't see that happening. The way I see it happening is more of like a leisure thing. Like people come home from either their digital or physical world, and they to unwind, they completely dive into like a digital or a metaverse. That's where I see it.
Um,
Yeah, no,
uh,
I think
so,
were you finish your thought, Joe?
No, I did.
Okay. Yeah, I think I would. I could see that. Like, I think that it could become like TV. You know what I mean? Some people, it's like they get home from work and it's like they're going to sit and watch TV as an escape. So I
Or
could see
like
that happening.
kind of like Inception, where you just kind of go off
Correct. You
and
just
do
want to
your
live in
own
a
little
dream.
world. Yeah, exactly that.
Sorry, I was cutting you off, Rob. What were you gonna say?
So you're saying what you're saying is it should be it's like a video. It's like me going home when I was younger and playing Super Nintendo.
Exactly.
Something like that.
Or instead of watching TV, or instead of listening to music, or playing some kind of sport, this will be our leisure. This is going to be how we enjoy ourselves after we get off of work.
Okay.
Yeah, I could see that. Here's I want to throw this at you guys. This just a little, right? Kind of to go back to piggyback off what your original kind of question, Rob. That like, what if it's like with the iPhones and the elderly? Like, what if you just the system changes in a way where you have to almost to like
To function. Yeah.
survive to function, right? One thing to consider is this: just like how the government is very opposed to cryptocurrency, they would probably be very opposed to a metaverse place. Because think about it this way: in a metaverse, you can't control who people interact with. It becomes kind of like a wild, wild west where just the rules of the metaverse apply. And I think it would be. I think the government would be kind of like. This is my role, right? I'm the anarchist of the group, as Robert said.
I was just gonna say that. It's like, of course he's bringing up
yeah. It's
some
like
kind
I'm a
of
trope at
government
this
control.
point.
Of course, it's gonna come down to government control in some way. I knew it.
But I honestly think that's the more intriguing question out of the three that you
Yes.
came up with: is should we stop this
Number
evolution
3.
to that?
Yeah, we'll get there though. Let's Corvo finish the.
Yeah, go
No,
ahead.
I was just gonna say is that like, yeah, I mean, I think it's true. Like, is like as much of a meme as I think it is. It's like governments don't really like pure fraternization, like easy access to like communication with people. Like, just if you think about it, like I was listening to something recently about from hackers, and they're saying like in Europe you can't buy a burner phone. Like, think about that for a second. Like, it is illegal, and I'm gonna say at least this is what I heard. I mean, I could be this could be inaccurate, but that this hacker was saying that like it's illegal to buy a burner phone in Europe, meaning that like you need in order to buy a phone with a SIM card, you need to have your name on something. Like, you need to have your credit card information on something. So if you want to just like that, like to me, like using that as an example, it's like, no, they want to know and have a record of who you are and the piece of machinery you're using to communicate with the world. Like, that's as an idea. If you unpack that, it's a scary idea, right? It's like they want to know who their populace and who their populace is talking. You need to be on a registry somewhere, right? IMEI numbers, like we all worked at Apple, like that is an identifying feature of a phone, right? It's unique to that phone. Whereas in the US, you can buy a burner phone, right? Like they care, but they don't care. Just use that as an example. Like that, I'm just trying to use it, showcase the fact that like governments want to really know who people are talking to, where they are geographically. That's why there's censuses. A metaverse is a world without borders, where all people can communicate and interact with. It's like think of the idea of a chat room, but a chat room where you can kind of physically be there, communicating with anyone you want at any time.
Yeah.
From that perspective, it kind of like is an interesting. It's an interesting idea because it's the same with cryptocurrency. I'm just going to tie it, and then we can go to the next question. It's like the same reason why a lot of governments don't like cryptocurrency at the real reason, not like anything having to do with nature and global warming. That's just a facade, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
That's just like something that they use to say to like, but that's not the reason. It's the fact that like it is a currencies without government control. Like, if you think about it this way, it's like if you had a friend in another country, traditionally the way if you sent them money, like so many middlemen are going to know who you sent that money to, and it might take a long time, right? Like, think about people like, we have tons of like South American people here who send money every paycheck back to their loved ones in their home country. and they're sending it through what's the real popular one?
Western Union.
Western Union, exactly, right? So you have to send that through Western Union. They charge you a fee to do that. It takes time for that money to get to its destination, right? There, on paper, someone knows that you sent money to you, John, in El Salvador, right? Whereas with cryptocurrency, for example, Bitcoin, I can send anyone money in the world within split seconds, right? No middleman. No one knows. It's my money. I'm going to send it to whoever I want, right? No one knows how much I have of it, right? I can send it to whomever I want in the speed of light, like very fast, right? Seconds. In seconds that John in El Salvador could have, I don't know, 0.0001 of a Bitcoin that I sent him, right? And he can feed his family with it. And there's no one that knows about it, no middleman, no one's charging me a fee to get it to that person. And I think governments don't like that. Like they want to know how much money you have and who you give it to, who you send it to. And I think like the metaverse, like you could kind of find a parallel in a realm where, let's say it's a true metaverse, it's true wild, wild west, old internet where you can just engage with whoever you want as an avatar. No one knows. You could be talking to a freaking Chinese spy. You could be talking to, whoever you want, right? You could be planning an insurrection. You could be, anything. I think that the government would become very frightened by that. All right, I'm done. Joe, what do you got?
So I disagree with you for a little bit. So
Oh, dude, please do.
I think the government already knows that stuff. Like I would say for 90% of the population that lives in a developed world or developed country, they know where we live. They know what kind of stuff that we purchase. They know how much money we make. They know
Correct.
everything.
Exactly.
So for me
I don't
personally,
disagree with that.
I just think they don't want to give up power.
Correct.
Anytime, whether it's a government or a monarchy or whoever is in charge, they loathe the idea of giving up power that they've accumulated over time. It's intoxicating for them to go through that evolution of acquiring power and to just give it up to the regular people. I just don't think that's something that they want to do. In terms of tracking people, I don't think that's something that they think about on like a day-to-day basis. It's just not. I don't for most of people that are involved in government.
I don't know about that one.
I'm going to say most, not all, but I think most people in government don't. That's not the thing that they think about the most is tracking people. It's really more just exerting power. That's just my 2 cents on that kind of aspect of it. Now, when it comes to like monetary policy, definitely like central banks, they don't want to give up the power of printing money whenever they need to, just in case there's some kind of financial crisis that happens. They they want to be able to pump money in whenever they can, just to prop up whatever flawed financial system that we're in. That's just the way I kind of see things.
No, I don't. I mean, nothing you said I disagree with. I mean, I agree with you. What I'm saying is that, like, no, I'm right there with you. I mean, they do know everything you pay for, but that's part of the issue is that because we use these legacy systems where they're going to know everything you pay for. What I'm saying is that one of the reasons why I believe that cryptocurrency, why a lot of governments are against it, is because it is something that you really can't track that easily. So it like you said, they have power, and this type of technology is in a sense opposition to that power. Like, for example, you get taxed, right? Like if I moved all my money into Bitcoin and just like decided I wanted to just live off Bitcoin, there's a point of which like they're gonna know something. But if I just started to, if all I was getting paid in Bitcoin, is that eventually you're not able to keep a clear idea of how much money I have. Like you don't know, how could you even appropriately tax me because you don't know my funds are now kind of like invisible to you. So what I'm saying is that it's not there yet. At this point, they know
Yeah, it's
everything.
definitely.
I mean, they know all your money. I mean, the fact is that like with the Canadian truck drivers, that like banks were closing other people's, they were going into people's bank accounts and
Shutting it
forced
down. Yeah.
taking money.
Yeah.
So like what I'm saying is that I think with cryptocurrency, Bitcoin in particular, and others, I think there's a reason why China like totally like they
Blocked
were
it
at
off.
one
Yeah.
point the largest
Hmm.
miner of Bitcoin, and then they just made it entirely illegal. Because here's the thing: if you populate, if a internet money takes hold that people can use to buy goods and services that doesn't exist through any middlemen, just exists via technology, like via servers, that's a dangerous thing. Like government, I mean, think about it, most governments don't create nothing. They live off a populace, right? You have tax revenue. That money gets absorbed. If you live in a country with a fiat currency, they also print money and inflate it in order to like pay for things they need to pay off.
Hmm.
But they don't create anything. And if people just stopped, like if you adopted a digital currency, like it would shake up and cause major problems to how all of these like legacy systems work. Um, so that's the crypto thing. So like, I agree with you, dude. It's like, and no, very few people in history, when given power, ever decide to give it
Give it
up.
up. Yep.
And no system or family or there's very few people. There's a finite amount that like actually gave up power. Power is like a self-fulfilling entity. It's like it grows and desires to grow like it's its own creature, like it's a sentient being. That's why governments tend to get bigger, not smaller, over time. So,
Yeah.
yeah, sorry, I'm the anarchist of the group.
Now, but I think I lean if I was not that I'm picking sides, but I would lean more toward Corvo than Joe. I think.
But no, Joe, we agree. Like,
Hmm.
that's funny. Like, you thought we were
Yeah.
just no. Everything you said, I agree with. I agree 100% with what you're saying. Um, yeah, they do know everything already, and they don't want to give up power. But what I'm saying, I guess, is that certain technologies are coming up that are going to shake up the system to a great degree, and certain things are out of their control. So it'll be interesting to see what they, when the beast is in its death throes, it's at its most dangerous.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm curious to see how they respond when, let's say, like, think about all the athletes. There's athletes that are starting to request getting paid in Bitcoin.
Hmm.
Like, that's an interesting thing. That's a kind of a like
Yeah. The
that's kind of a big deal.
It is, and the stadium, the Los Angeles
Oh
Starry.
God.
There's a motorbike that just went by. If anyone,
I
heard
didn't
that.
hear anything.
So that means the studio is nice that I heard it. So there's the stadium, Chris, in Los
L.A.
Angeles,
Yep.
where the Lakers play,
And the
and the
Kings.
Los Angeles Kings, the NHL team, is named after a crypto company. Yeah. The stadium,
Yeah.
the rights of the naming of the stadium of two of the premier franchises in American sports is named after cryptocurrency.
Which is that's
Yeah.
crazy. I mean, I think there's a lot of scams out there
And
with
that's
crypto.
okay.
Like
So that's where I was
100%.
going to go into, because I don't think we're going to see mass adoption unless there's a single a single digital currency. And I feel like governments are starting to see, okay, this is where things are going. We have to get ahead of the curve. And I think basically, I personally think that they're going to co-opt it. And the only way it's going to be mass adopted is if it's a single currency, either if it's like a euro style, or if it's just each country has their own currency. But I just don't see how you can have all of um, these digital currencies out there, and people are investing them in them, and there's like Ponzi schemes all over the place. It's hard for people to try to put their money into something, not knowing that this is going to be the one that comes out on top.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. I mean, the governments are already doing this.
Mm-hmm.
They're already coming up with a digital currency. It's not a cryptocurrency per se, but it's a
Mm-hmm.
digital currency. Um, that's like its own thing. I guess what I would say is that one with some of these like Bitcoin, I think Bitcoin is probably the best example. It don't matter if they like it or they don't like it. It's kind of something that's going to live without their consent. Like you just can't destroy it. It doesn't unless you can destroy the internet. You're not taking it down. And the fact that like it's worth 40,000 at this time, maybe less, a one Bitcoin. I mean, it shows you the demand is there and will probably only increase. As far as like mass adoption, we're on that S curve. I think it's an S curve or bell curve. We're still in early adoption, and that's true of any technology, right? I mean, that's mass adoption usually comes very, very, very late, right? That's when yeah. I mean, it comes very, very, very late. Like we're at early adoption. It's like the internet existed for a long time, but it didn't become the majority of people didn't start using it until later, until people started to make it easier to gain access to. So I agree with that. I think it's an inevitable reality though, and it will. I guess what I would say, and then we can talk about metaverse more, but we're talking about crypto now, is just the fact that like I think during COVID in particular, I think it recalibrated a lot of people who were at pre-COVID uncalibrated. What I mean is that I think for a lot of people, they were very trusting of their government. And then COVID, I would say not every, I'd say a lot of people. A lot of people, the majority of people are trusting of their government.
I disagree. I think
Okay,
people
that's
are
fine.
tolerant of their government. Trusting, I don't think so. I think over the past 50 years, all of the things that have happened, I think most people are tolerant of their
50
government.
years, dude.
Probably
50, that's
probably
your
more.
grandparents. Do you think your grandparents, that's like at the time where there was like 3 news stations. Like
Yeah,
you watched the news and you trusted the people talking to you. That's like Good Night and Good Luck, that movie. Like people like they trusted the journalists a lot.
Yeah.
Like these people were like considered mouthpieces of truth. So like I think I disagree with that. I think a lot of people trusted their government. I think majority of people trusted their government.
I think everything kind of spiraled out of control during the 60s. And it's gotten worse since. Every decade it's just gotten worse. And I think we're at the point now where there's very little trust. People want to just live their lives and they're willing to tolerate whatever is happening as long as they're safe. And until the point when something catastrophic happens again, then people are going to go up in arms. But I think at the moment people don't trust the government. There's been too many scandals. There's been too many disasters that have happened where the government has been slow to react. I just don't see it. I think people are tolerant of it.
I agree. I agree. What I'm saying, like in the last but I don't think 50 years. I think that's way too large a range of time. I think in the last 5 years,
Wow.
last 3.
I don't.
Yeah, dude. I mean,
just
you
don't-
think if you talk to someone in their 50s, not our age,
Yeah.
like talk to someone who's in their 50s or 60s, when they were in their 20s, they were not like thinking the president was like a murderer, let's say, or that like there was like the type of conspiratorial stuff that's now there's a lot of stuff that we talk about now would have been called conspiracy theory back like 5-10 years ago, and now is kind of be considered like maybe a little fringe, but it's kind of adopted by a lot of people. So I mean, I don't know. We're kind of splitting hairs.
No,
at this
I
point.
think we are, but I also think you're forgetting things like the Vietnam War, like the Iraq War, things like high inflation during this late 70s. These things are not the stuff that's happening now is not happening in a vacuum. It's all an accumulation of the things that have been happening before it. The financial crisis in 2008. It's all an accumulation of things, and I feel like we're coming to a head because of what's happened before us. That's
okay.
what
That's
I'm
good. That makes a lot of sense because I don't think about those things. But you're right,
which makes
and
sense because we're
I'm
not
happy.
because we're not of that age group. I know with me in my 20s, I didn't think about any of this stuff. I was just living my life. But the older people get, the more in tune People
true.
are with
That's true.
with their surroundings.
Yeah, but it's funny. Like, go ask your mom one day. Like, do you ask her how she, if when she was 40 or 50, like, I don't know. Like, I still maybe disagree, but it's not
Mm-hmm.
like it's something we would need to get. We need an audience to kind of poll.
Mm-hmm.
But like, I feel like, especially now with like the digital age and like having so many more avenues to hear and to learn about things, that I think that what you're talking about has exponentially grown.
Yes.
Where you know what I mean. So as you're saying, you're right. There was people at these different times, Vietnam and whatnot, that were very maybe distrusting. Um, but I guess, yeah, and that has grown to such a degree. What I'm saying is that, like, now people are not in their 18, 19, 20s are already suspicious. It wasn't like they needed 40 years of life to maybe be like,
That's
I'm not going to
100%.
drink.
That's
Yeah,
completely.
now it's like
I see
the
where you're
new
coming from.
age of people, the people who are creating the metaverse and the Bitcoin and crypto in general, are like, they're like 18, 19, 20, and they're already like red pilled and like, I don't trust this person. I don't trust you. I don't trust this person. I don't trust the government. Like, fuck them. Like, if I can
Yeah.
hide my money in a cryptocurrency, I'm down. You know what I mean? It's like there's no convincing. They've already been convinced. So I don't
Yeah.
know my point. I was the point I was trying to
No,
make. But yeah,
I
No,
get
I
it.
see. Yeah, I see it. I see what you're saying.
and I think it's great. I think it's fucking. I'm happy. I think it's like finally humanity is starting to kind of like rise up to a degree where, like, because of certain technological innovations, like the playing field. That's something. Like the elite people, the people who, governments is one word, but there's more other words to describe them.
Yeah.
For the longest time, it's like they've had their finger on people, and now like technology and the metaverse. I'm kind of worried. Like, I don't think I would want to live in it, but I think it does start to break down borders. And I think people in power want to keep borders, right? People are easier to control when you know where they are and you know who they're talking to.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm even metaphorically speaking, but like, but when you start to break those borders and different people can talk in different countries, it's like, that's when shit gets interesting.
Yeah. That I love that. That made me just think of something. This might hammer the point home. It gives you not just financial freedom, but more like behavioral freedom. Because let's say you're a filmmaker, right? And your film can only be viewed in this movie theater you created in the metaverse, in your metaverse that you live in. You can set the price. You can set the maximum amount of people that can watch it, and you're not at the behest of producers and Hollywood and all these movie studios. So if you're the artist, if you're the writer and the director of this film, you have much more control over your own art in the metaverse than you do in the real world, where you gotta play the corporate game. You gotta talk to the empty suits. The producers want to meddle in the script and change everything. So you know what I'm saying. So that's it. That actually is a good part of where we're headed. Where if you're an artist or a creative, you have more control and you set your own market, and you don't have to listen to studios and companies and lobbyists and or public opinion and all, and basically like greater like Hollywood, like what's accepted in Hollywood and how you have to behave.
I agree with you
Yeah.
to a certain extent, but I still think there's always going to be a power vacuum, no matter what's at play. Like who- the people that are in charge of generating new coins, they all have to come to an agreement to put out more currency, and at some point, me being kind of the jaded person that I am, I kind of feel like that's going to be co-opted by someone who has power and influence.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah, I mean, you're not wrong. I
Yeah.
mean, with the metaverse thing, it's like, who controls the metaverse? I mean, whoever controls the metaverse
Control.
has power. I mean, that's why people are kind of like sketched out by the whole Facebook metaverse thing. It's like, I don't want fucking Mark Zuckerberg to like have control? Or why would I want to
Yeah,
enter
that's
his
true.
world,
Yeah.
his universe? So I mean, yeah, I mean that's like a very valid.
It's shit.
And with crypto, it's the same. I mean, one thing with crypto, I think this is like maybe a conversation for a different day. Is that's part of the that is part of the conversation, and with crypto, I think it's one of those things that like time will filter out coins that have utility and coins that don't have utility. And what we're seeing really is the beginning of a wave, right? We don't really know when that wave is going to crash or what that beachfront will look like when it crashes. Mm-hmm. We're like right now we're on the wave. Like we are big wave surfers, and it's like who knows what's going to happen or where this wave is going to take.
See, that's part of my question too.
Mhm.
Is like the 2000s, like the .com like crash.
Mm-hmm.
Are we as a society willing to just let a whole group of people just lose their shirts because they were early adopters? Is that I kind of want to push to this third question that Rob kind of
I think we
Sure.
should. Yeah, I like
like
that one. It's
is
more
that
interesting than the second one. Yeah.
is this something that we really want to do? I feel like
Yeah.
I think it's inevitable, but
Well, and let's break it down. Like, are you saying cryptocurrency
no,
or the metaverse or
everything,
both? Okay.
both, everything. Is it something that we want to do? Because on an environmental level, this is going to be it's going to consume a lot of energy, and I don't think we have. I honestly don't think we have enough fossil fuels to actually power this kind of energy in the future. And we definitely don't have any renewable energy to power this kind of energy in the future or consumption in the future. And then on the on the other spectrum, kind of, do we want people like just to sit in their homes and just kind of veg out for like 20 hours or 16 hours a day and not go out and not interact with people? Is that something that we want to do, especially considering what we just dealt with the pandemic?
Hmm.
I don't know. It's kind of it's a dilemma that I just started thinking about, and I don't know if I want to do that.
Nah, I'm with you. I mean, everyone is gonna know where I stand on this topic. We definitely need it. It must be stopped at all costs.
Oh shit.
It must be stopped at all costs.
Ah.
I'll fucking whoever's mining these coins, I'll destroy the computer myself with a baseball bat. I'll do it myself. There's probably some giant server somewhere. Give me a baseball bat and
No,
put me
man,
there.
it's untouchable at this point.
I've
Yeah,
heard stories like there's like these mining like
there has to be
facilities.
things. Yeah,
They're so loud because of the kind of energy that they have to produce, and they have like cooling fans that produce a lot of like noise level,
yeah.
and it kind of affects the communities around it. It's
Same could be said about large windmills.
yeah, but I don't think that
Yeah, but that's
communities would
using
live.
naturally. That's not the same. I don't think.
Yeah.
No, what I'm saying is that like the noise pollution that's created
But,
is an issue.
but
Like
communities are not
communities
gonna,
don't like when
Yeah.
when they're built there.
which I
Yeah.
totally agree. But I feel like windmills are not going to be part of like actual communities. They're not going to be in an area where they need to be directly connected to a power grid. Like,
Well, we can like let's just add one other layer of like knowledge when we because we're talking about if we're talking about Bitcoin specifically, that's mining,
Mhm.
and with Bitcoin there is an end in sight. It's a finite currency. It's like gold. Like there's a point in the future, in the not too distant future, maybe 10 years from now, maybe less, where there will be no more coins to mine.
but who decides that? That's the
No, I mean
question.
it's algorithmically. It's like it's math. It's like it cannot.
Mm.
That's the beauty of Bitcoin in that you can't manipulate it. It is some unknown person, Satoshi. No one knows
Yeah.
who he is
Uh-huh.
or who or her or who she is or they are. I kind of think sometimes that he's from the future.
Which was my second question. Are we in the simulation, and is
Oh, man.
someone running it and we're in it?
I don't believe it, man. People talk the simulation thing.
Neither do I.
I don't buy
But that's why I like the third question. It's more philosophical and existential. Like Corvo, should we stop this from happening though?
Yeah, I mean, I'm gonna go Henry Chan. You can't like. There's certain dude. I think he brought up something to me that I never thought about, and that should we all should have thought about it because we're reasonably intelligent.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just like, we're as a human being, like any other animal, like we're constantly being bombarded by different things that happen in nature, right? Sunlight coming down, right? That creates hormonal changes.
Mm-hmm.
All these different environmental things, and like maybe even thoughts and ideas and trends. Like we look at our society and certain views that are taking hold, and it's like we don't even really know, like who knows if like something environmentally is changing how we perceive things, and that's the reason why certain ideas are taking shape or taking hold. And I guess the point I'm trying to make is that I don't know if things can be changed. Like I don't know, like when you say, like when you see things you don't like and you like, all right, we got to stop it. People say that, right?
Yeah.
Let's say people say that woke culture or this or that. I don't know if you can. It's like I sometimes I think it's just like these are waves. Like we're all human animals, and it's just like migratory patterns, and it's just like certain things take hold and take shape, and then something happens, and they kind of like extinguish themselves. I don't know if any one extinguishes it. You know what I mean? Like communism, for example. Like did the Cold War stop communism? Not really. I don't think. I think communism, like let's say the Soviet Union, for example, specifically. I think it just like inevitably the wave crashed, and it was kind of like this is not working. It was like a natural, like it just didn't work. You know what I mean? I guess my point is with the can you stop it? I don't know if you can stop it. I think sometimes things just have to kind of work themselves out. Should we stop it? I don't think it's like, to go back to what you and Joe were saying. Like, I don't think it's good. Like, we're human beings. Like, we have a physical form, and I think that you're not going to be fully satisfied. I don't think you're going to feel good as a person if you live a purely digital life. Like, you know what I mean? Like that. We're our bodies are like not that. We haven't evolved. That like we're built to do work, to do labor, to move, to engage in the physical world, to feel the sun, to feel air, to breathe, to drink water. And I don't think people would be any happier if this was to take root as like a trend, and like people you could like be dialed in. Like I think people would do it because we like instant gratification, but I don't think people's general happiness would increase. It probably would actually do the opposite and decrease.
But see, there's the thing. I we weren't born in a digital age. We were like born on the cusp of the analog and the digital age. And I kind of
Yeah.
feel like the newer generations that are going to pop up, they're going to be born into it, and I think it's just going to be second nature to them.
Yeah, but I mean, also
Mm-hmm.
you could say that like suicide amongst adolescents is at an all time high, and
Mm-hmm.
that's been traced to the well, coincidentally the invention of the iPhone. So I mean, again, you might be born into certain trends, but like you still have meat, you're still a body. I mean that's the fact. It's like the human body has not evolved in, you know what I mean? So yeah, you might be used to playing video games, and you might spend large quantities of time in front of the TV and be down for that. Like it might be second nature to you. But I guess what I'm saying is like, right, our bodies, like we are a physical form, right? Like if I'm not in the sunlight, I'm not getting certain hormones. I might not be happy. I might be like, oh, I'm depressed. But the reality is, my physical form is missing an ingredient that it needs in order for my mind to feel good and for me to use the word happiness. So I guess that's what I'm saying is that like
Okay.
this thing will probably take hold. People will love it because look at how much time people spend on their phones. But will people be any happier? I don't think, because you would be going against your physical form, and like for all intents and purposes, we all carry a meat bag, and that meat bag has a
Yeah,
lot more to do with our happiness
it's true. That's
than
fine.
like we admit.
But I'm not. I'm not referring to happiness. I'm referring to more convenience. Like the pandemic has shown me, a lot of people want to stay at home. They want to work from home. They don't want to. I'm trying to think of the best word to say. I don't know if it's want or need, but they prefer not to
Yeah.
deal with the social aspect of going to work and commuting and all these different things. I kind of feel like the social dynamics of being social is changing right in front of our eyes, and I feel like
Uh,
the more that the generations kind of pass, the easier it's going to be for this kind of universe, so the metaverse, to kind of take hold.
yeah. Okay. Go ahead, Rob. I
Yeah.
see you got your
Yeah.
hand up.
So, this made me think there's a Black Mirror episode, which is
I fucking love Black Mirror.
which describes exactly what we're talking about right now. And it's a way where you basically plug yourself into this augmented reality contraption, and you can it's not a metaverse. The way they do the episode is they portray it as a video game, but you can feel sunlight. You can
Yeah.
if someone touches you, you can feel it
Okay,
on your
I
physical body. You know
I
the
know what
episode.
episode. Oh
Yeah.
God, that
So
was
yeah, I'm not going to ruin it for anyone because you should watch it. But basically, once you engage with this machine and you strap yourself in, all those physical feelings and like dopamine releases and all the vitamins that you're getting from the sun, you get it
Yeah.
in this like augmented reality world.
oh.
What about this?
Yeah.
So
And that's scary because I think that's true. Like, for example, like pornography, like the porn industry is
it's a
actively,
good point.
like, we laugh, but
That's
like
a good point.
they're
That's a
they're
good point.
they're investing like they're actively investing like huge sums of money
Because you know how lucrative that would
into
be if they
Yes,
can
sir,
pull that
Adam.
off.
Yep.
Yeah.
into like Oculus and like yeah. So like no, I think I agree with both of you. Is that I think human beings, like, we like instant gratification. I
Mhm.
mean, that's why people like to watch TV, because for the most part it's a passive activity, right? You are watching, and you might watch good stuff, but for the most part it's a passive
Yeah.
thing. Whereas reading is more of, you have to actively pursue it. You have to read. It's more of an activity.
Mhm.
So it's harder to do, though it might be more gratifying in the long term. So I would say, yeah, I mean, dude, this will be a big, like, if this technology evolves as it already is, yeah, I mean, I think you're going to see it's going to be a huge problem. But I mean, it will be a problem.
It needs to be stopped. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, I mean, it'll be a
Fuck
problem.
this. It's
But I don't know, like, and this might be like, there are certain times where I'm like, you know what, this is the government's job, is to, like, all right, regulate certain things.
Mhm.
And it might be that, like, they have to
I
regulate
think they're.
certain things.
I think it's going to be
Like this,
co-opted.
for example, Metaverse in particular, because, like, what, you're gonna have a whole generation of kids that just don't.
they never leave their bedroom ever.
And also, if you look at it as, like, like, you need people that are able-bodied to fight and to do things if the shit hits the fan. If everyone is just like
No, you're just
these
you're-
limp
yeah.
noodles, it's gonna be a problem.
But
Right.
we're kind of already living in a
We are.
automated warfare world anyway. Like,
Right.
yeah,
That's what I was gonna say. You'll just fight the
That's
war
true.
online. You'll just fight
This
it
is
online.
true. Or you use robots and
yeah,
stuff like that.
drones.
Yeah, dude, I don't know. The future is going to be interesting. I kind of go back and forth on it with certain things. I think it's good. This is what kind of my point I was trying to make earlier. Is like, I don't think it's going to be an all-in type of thing.
I agree.
I think the future will be a very diverse environment
Bill Eager.
of a variety of things. You have people who go fully digital, never leave their homes. Like these, I forget the term. It's like these Japanese men who are like shut-ins essentially. And then again, you're gonna have people who are like, I mean, it's in the not too distant future, like steroids and like are gonna be very easy to, like, anyone, if they want to look like a freaking jacked dude, it will be very easy. It'll be like without effort. You know what I mean? Everyone can be like that if they want to be like that. Or if you want to look a certain way, it's very easy to go to a plastic surgeon and they can literally just change you into whatever you want to look like. So I think the future is going to be just very, very. It's going to be crazy. I think I'm kind of like, this is a few times where I'm like, I don't want to be an immortal. Like,
Oh,
I don't know if I'd want to
shit.
see this type of evolution in humanity. But then again, you have like people like Elon Musk who are trying to go to the mall, like who are fully engaging in the real world in the sense of like, we got to go to Mars, we got to explore, we have to like continue the human progression. So like that idea exists too, and I guess that's what I'm saying is like the future will be very diverse because people are diverse in their desires.
Yeah. To tell a joke before my point, so that I'm in Chris Corvo's future, every man looks like they came out of the movie Predator. They've starred in Predator, no shirt, military gear, guns, and every woman looks like they were in the Sports Illustrated swimsuit edition. That's your future. That's everyone.
I mean, if you got the dough, yeah, absolutely.
Oh my
But
days!
dude, I think that is like, I think that's not too.
I
That's
don't
not
think you're wrong.
too far
Yeah.
into the future, man. That's not too far into the
So
future.
my serious question, yeah, um, is I have a darker question. So this could get deep, and we could probably wrap it up after this because this
Okay.
and is do we live in a world where now that we see what's going on with the environment particularly and how it's degrading, will we ever reach a point where we can even achieve this goal because the earth is just we're going to get Graham Hancocked basically by the climate, you know what I'm saying? So
Yeah.
will this ever even happen because we've destroyed the earth enough that it will never happen because everything is just going to go to shit?
Go ahead, Joe, and then I'll give you my
Yeah.
final thoughts. We'll end on this question.
Put it simply, I think we're fucked.
I
really
agree.
do.
I do agree too.
I knew that you were going to say that. Dude.
I-
That's why I was like, go first.
I'm definitely a pessimist. Shit. I don't know. I like saying that I'm a realist, but I can't lie, and I am a pessimist. I just don't see it.
You go. I mean, no, I give yourself. I'd say you're a realist / you sometimes go pessimist, but you're sometimes even more optimistic than I am. Go ahead. Sorry, keep going.
I just think that we're too and as a species, we're too self-involved, and it's there. There are people that want to try to change things, but there are too many entrenched forces that don't want to change it. They want to keep things the way they are because they're not worried about the consequences that could follow. And I don't see how we can get out of that cycle. I really don't.
Okay, then I'm gonna go. Or do you want to go, Rob?
Yeah, I have. No, I'll do. You go first. I have a final thought, but go ahead.
Okay, so we'll end on that. I'm the opposite. I think that the future, the issues that we'll face are more like at a spiritual, philosophical level. I'm of the camp when it comes to like the natural world that the future will be better than the present, just because I think you can even already see that line. Like, look at the Industrial Revolution and how much pollution we created, and it's actually gotten better. It's not gotten worse. I think, like, statistically. So like I think that a lot of these quote unquote problems of today will not be the same problems of the future. That's just my particular view on things. Yeah, but I mean that's it. I think we're to go what you're saying, Joe. It's like I do think we kind of like put things off, but I do think that when there is a problem that we can't kind of ignore, it usually does get solved. And if technology is growing at such an exponential rate, which is scary, exponentially how advanced it is, you just because you can't conceive of a solution for a problem now. I mean, there were problems like in one generation. I mean, like the problems that your grandparents face, like a lot of those problems don't even exist anymore to a degree. When we're our grandparents' age, like who knows at the rate of which like problems are being solved and technology is being advanced. I don't even think we can contemplate or comprehend what problems we'll have solved at that time, unless there's some crisis that stops that that ramping up of, let's call it, progress or of technological advancement. If something happened, like if Putin lit off a nuclear bomb, that would put an end to that progression.
Mm-hmm.
But just like, I mean, look at the iPhone, for example. Like someone in our life, someone who's alive now, saw humans go to the moon, and the iPhone is so much more advanced than all of the computing that went into putting someone to the moon. In our lifetime, someone might go to Mars. So it's like in our grandchildren's lifetime, you have no idea like what new fuel supply, like fuels will come up. Maybe the whole world will go nuclear and they find like a very good way to protect against that. Or we find some asteroid that has some type of mineral or thing on it that is like endless in its power supply. Like I think all these things are within the realm of possibility. So I tend to like think that that the future will be brighter in that capacity, but spiritually as human beings, that it would be a concern for me. So that's my thought.
All right. Or the opposite is an asteroid could be heading directly for us, and we need Bruce Willis to save the Earth.
Hell yeah, man. Armageddon, dude.
So,
Oh my
or
God.
we could just get wiped out at any moment.
Like Deep Impact.
Yeah, Deep Impact. Big.
If I was that movie, I'd want to be like either the Russian cosmonaut or the big black guy for some reason.
No, I'm Steve Buscemi in
Oh,
Armageddon.
gosh.
Just a
Oh,
fucking creep show.
God.
So yeah, but I tend to I'm more of I'm gonna disagree with you, Chris, a little bit, and I'm more
That's
of
fine.
Joe, where I think where the Earth is foobarred. I think it's beyond repair, and you can't because people and what I'll say in this my last note, people underestimate Mother Nature. Don't fuck with Mother Nature. You can't, no one is going to be able to stop tidal waves and typhoons. Can't be stopped. It's not you can't do it. There's nothing you can build that's going to at least I can foresee even way in the future that's going to stop violent firestorms and like all these natural disasters that can happen.
But it's not only like tidal waves
Yeah.
and heat waves and things
Earthquakes.
like that.
Yeah.
But like Chris kind of alluded to, like the precious like earth metals that we have, we're burning through that shit. And I don't know like if we can intercept an asteroid and get any of that kind of stuff from there, or go like what Bezos and Musk wanted to do and go kind of colonize another planet. I don't know if we can do that stuff, even with technology leaping forward. It's
Well, just look at nuclear power, though. I mean, we don't use nuclear power. You could consider that an untapped resource. Like we don't really use it that prolifically, but that is almost like a untold amount of power. So, I mean, maybe systems will need to change. I want to just jump on you, Rob. If you're saying that we don't underestimate the Earth, then but we are underestimating. If you're saying that one species can destroy this magnificent creature that is the Earth, then in a sense you are underestimating the Earth's ability to maintain itself.
I see your point, but what I'm saying is we've gotten to the point where we didn't care about it for so long, and like Joe said, there's finite resources. Nothing is infinite on the Earth, and
I think go ahead. Sorry.
And Earth is just majority water. If something happens and disrupts the water, everyone's gonna die. What if water doesn't exist anymore? And then there is no way to save it. Everyone dies. Something like that. So
yeah, but the Earth continues. Yeah. I mean, I think we could definitely do stuff that screws up humanity. That goes without question. I mean, even if we lit off a nuclear bomb, it ain't going to destroy the Earth. It's going to destroy us. Like, give the Earth enough time, Earth will be a paradise again. I mean, you just watch I think Discovery Channel did it once. It was like, if everyone left New York City, if it just like all the humans ceased to exist, how quickly nature would retake back what took, multiple, at least a century to create. So Yeah, I mean, I think we could definitely destroy ourselves. So that goes without question. Here's another thing: we're worried about like global warming. What about the next ice age? That's if the ice age came, we fucked.
Oh yeah.
That's what me and Henry talk about. If an ice age came, because here's the thing: we know that there was an ice
Mhm.
age. We know that humans lived through in the ice age. There ain't no stories. There ain't no mythology about the ice age. There's like that is a blank period in history. There ain't no stories. Every culture has a flood story. Ain't no culture talking about an ice age. If there was an ice age, we fucked. Like
True.
that might be the end of our civilization. That's like Graham Hancock stuff. Like, why how many times did human beings reach a height of technological advancement and then
Get wiped out.
something happened that just brought them back to hunter gatherer and they had to start from scratch. I mean, it took us if you think about it, from where we like within the last 2,000 years, we've gotten to where we are. In the grand scheme of things, it's not a long period of
Mhm.
time.
True.
So there's nothing saying that like human beings at multiple times throughout the millions of years the planet has been around have gotten up to this level and then something happened and it just rebooted
Kind of like the
and they had to
Matrix.
start from scratch again.
Yeah, I think I'm more inclined to believe that. I'm not saying I do
Mhm.
believe that, but I'm more inclined to believe
No
that
proof.
than I would outright disagree with that. Yeah. So
All right, so final thoughts, guys. We're coming up on about an hour and a half. Metaverse, yay or nay? Joe, you want to create your own metaverse?
No, I definitely wouldn't. I like the physical world too much. I do think that we're definitely, like, just to reiterate, we're on a collision course with the metaverse. It's just it's inevitable. Everything is just pointing towards that direction. When it comes to cryptocurrency, I don't. There's things to like about it. How it democratizes the money and currency. I like that, but I think there's too many nefarious um, things that come into play with crypto. There's I think there's too many people that would be left behind with it as well.
mm,
People that are underbanked, people that don't use cards or
Well, you don't need banking to do crypto.
no.
That
But I'm just
actually
saying.
solves the
But
underbanking
what
problem.
I'm saying is people that don't have technology that don't they're going to be left out of the loop.
Okay, we're gonna have to have a crypto conversation at some point.
Yeah.
we should.
I'm sorry. Continue your thoughts.
Um, I really like the idea, but I just don't know how it's going to play out. So I don't know if I'm on board with it yet. So
Fair.
I'm just crazy. To me, it's crazy how many early adopters are into this thing. It's just nuts.
Me.
uh,
Keep going.
No,
Sorry.
no,
Sorry.
I'm just that's it.
That's
I'm
fair.
shocked at
Well, you're waiting and watching, right? You're not sure what's going to happen, and you're kind of going to see what
it's
happens.
like the Wild
right?
West, though.
Right.
How could anyone? Well, not anyone, but how could most people who look at this thing and see it as like a way to avoid financial crises see that okay, this can avoid it if it's so crazy.
Yeah. I mean, remember the internet was the wild, wild west. That's not too long
Yeah,
ago,
and
and now it's something that we all use every day.
this was created as a response to the financial crisis. And it's just I don't know. I'm just a little leery of it.
all right.
All right, Bobby A, what do you got? What are your final thoughts?
Contrary to popular belief, I would create a metaverse, but
What would it call? What would you call
the
it?
Bobbyverse.
There we
And
go.
the only sports that would exist are hockey and proper football. None of this American football shit.
Uh,
There would be Canadian and Israeli women only. No disrespect to anyone else, just my preference. Love all women, but those are the top for me. Every woman would either be Canadian or Israeli.
I think you just put yourself in like a whole shitstorm right there.
No, I'm just telling you what I like. I'm not saying anything. No, I'm
Well,
saying it's wrong.
their avatar
Yeah.
would have to be Israeli.
or
That's fine.
or you're
Or
from
Mediterranean.
that area. I could say more than Israeli, just Middle Eastern, Mediterranean, all those
Okay.
countries. Yeah, or a nice Western Canadian woman, and I would have the body mass of Carl Weathers in The Predator. that's would be my avatar. I would look like Carl Weathers in The Predator, and that's it. That would be the metaverse. It would be like an amusement park, but it wouldn't be anything serious. Like, to seriously answer the question, no, because it's going to go too far, and I don't trust any human being to properly function in that environment, because it's going to get like what happens with everything. It's going to get corrupted.
Mm-hmm.
Shit's going to happen behind the scenes. There's going to be shadow control and all the. No, I'm out. No metaverse for me. To seriously answer the question, but big up Carl Weathers. All right? Go ahead.
Oh yeah. Final thoughts. So, I mean, crypto, I'm a proponent of. So I'm gonna put that in one camp. I think that's inevitable and won't. I mean, I think it's just a question of what will be the currency people use the most. But I think we're already too far. It's gonna happen, and I say hell yeah. Metaverse, I don't know. I'm not. I think I've already kind of expressed myself. Like, I don't think it'll be a good thing for people. I don't know if it'll be a bad tool to have if you can use it in moderation, just like the internet. But I think human beings are just, especially like you were saying earlier, if you can get the dopamine and the serotonin fix, I think it would become a drug for a lot of people.
Mm-hmm.
And then whoever controls the drug is, like the Joe was saying, has too much control, and it would be very dangerous. So I can it be stopped? What is the degree of which it will be adopted? Will it be like Google Glass, which was here one day and gone the next? I don't know. We're gonna have to wait and see. But do I have a desire to make my own universe? Absolutely not. I have no desire. Would I like to be like a dark, mysterious Count of Monte Cristo that inhabits many of these universes?
Jesus Christ.
Maybe. The man in the shadow. Morpheus.
Yeah, I knew you were going to say that.
Cigarette smoking
but
man, all of those characters. Yeah.
Oh,
there you
God.
go. But guys, this was fun. We're gonna have to we should do a crypto conversation, because that's a separate topic in and of itself, and I think it'd be worthwhile to talk about, because that is something that I think that will impact us before the metaverse will. I think the metaverse, we're early stages of that. I think crypto, that's happening now, and I mean, you can just see how it's benefited. Like the Ukraine, for example, a lot of people donated via crypto, and a lot of people fled the Ukraine with all of their wealth in crypto on a thumb drive. So, like, I think you can see utility in that, but that's a conversation for another day.